Hi, this is Danny. This is an update video I'm doing on snowboarding with CMH in the backcountry with these Black Diamond Z poles. Now, there are several different companies that make these Z poles. However, I've just had experience with these Black Diamond Z poles. I know a lot of people are put off by carrying poles in the backcountry. However, I think after about 200,000 vertical feet, my friends and I believe that these are an absolute necessity, and I'll go over the reasons why we feel that way. I know a lot of people don't want to ride with these, so this video is for people who probably are a little bit resistant riding with the poles, and I just wanted to outline the backcountry benefits and the benefits if you're going to be a CMH snowboarder. I think it's probably essential for you to ride with these at least for your first couple of trips. I'm finding I like to ride with my poles in my hand like this, so I can just kind of ride like this and duck trees and move around, somewhat with the poles in this hand. So sometimes you end up falling into a tree well or something like that, and so with the poles in your hand, when you fall, you're gonna be falling down, and the pole will at least keep your head from falling in, or if you fall backwards, keep from your butt from falling into a tree well. So they're pretty nice to have, so you can push off. So if you're always riding like this, you always have something to steady yourself. And of course, if you want to go and deploy them, you can easily just put them up like here and then just grip them with two hands and deploy them. Many of you just lift yourself out of the snow by planting the pole into the snow and then just lifting yourself up. But sometimes that's not available because the snow is so deep. The snow is far deeper than this pole goes. So one reason why you might want to carry two poles is you can crisscross your poles and put your hands like this and push yourself off the deep snow. So let's talk about some of the benefits. Usually we have a guide here that we've got a ride next to, and the closer we can be to the guide, and we only have one and he's in the front, and the closer that we can be to the guide, the safer we are, because he's mitigating all those risks that I'm talking about here. So everything's fine while we're out heli skiing and everything, but the guide job is to manage the risks and make sure that doesn't interfere with our trip. We keep our poles from freezing because if our poles freeze, we're gonna have some issues deploying them. But this is the typical tree environment. You can see you could make all kinds of mistakes, and you could get in flat areas and get stuck, and it's just miserable. And having the poles to pick yourself off the snow and get yourself out of some of these rolls, some of these tree wells and features will help you quite a bit. So why should we carry poles? I think the best thing to do is just kind of look at the terrain that we're dealing with. Now, a lot of times we're dealing with alpine, where we just get dropped up at the top of the mountain, and we start riding down the mountain. And just hypothetically, I'm going to give you the lay of the land. Of course, this is an alpine, but we start up here, the top, and then we ride maybe through the trees down, or we'd ride some cut block down here, and we drop down into these runouts that connect with creeks. And a lot of times the helicopter pickup is down here in the clearings. It's not up here because they can't pick up in the trees. So they're going to be picking up, and we have to go through these runouts. Okay, to go through the runouts, there's quite a bit of there are some risks. There are risks of avalanches. Of course, avalanches can happen here. We have also risks of falling into tree wells. There are trees and tree wells. There are creeks that we can fall in, and this is just an example of some of the environments that we can get down very near the creeks and fall into creeks, and we can be on a traverse up a creek and then accidentally maybe not paying attention, or maybe the ground kind of gives way because there's sometimes these ice bridges over these creeks, and we can end up going into the water. And so it's better to have some means to get to keep you out of the creek if possible. And of course, if you fall down in some of this deep snow, it's very difficult to get out of the snow. So in the environment that I'm describing, we have snowboarders that's job is to hopefully break trail ahead of us, and we tend to hang back with our poles, and we can plow through things. Sometimes these guys in the old days would offer to give us a pole or something, and I think in the environment that I'm used to, I'm always carrying my poles, and I can follow these guys pretty closely. And these guys are happier because I'm not way behind, and they get more skiing in. One of the things is, do you carry your poles, or do you stow your poles? And I've found that even though that the poles are collapsible and they'll fit in my backpack here, I found it better just to start the journey downhill with the poles, because I never know what hazards that I'll run into. And some of the risks are, of course, I've covered the trees, avalanche, escape from avalanche, falling down in deep snow and creeks and ice bridges, and you never know when that stuff is going to happen to you. And a lot of times you get caught on low ground, and you don't have a good chance to escape. So on this answer to stow or not to stow, I tend to think it's best to just have the poles out. And if I'm skiing through trees, it's difficult to have the poles poking up through my backpack. Should you go rigid or collapsible? I think it's better than nothing to just have a pole that's rigid, and you don't necessarily have to have the collapsible. The collapsibles are nice if you're going into the helicopter, of course. One of the biggest benefits is the conservation of energy. And let's talk about this. You're not going to be walking, you're not going to be post-holing, and you're going to have more energy devoted to riding. And you're going to preserve the trail for skiers. So often the situation we're in is we're standing up, over a hill here, and we're getting ready to drop in, and the one part's good, and sometimes over here it's not good, and there's cliffs over here. So sometimes it's not obvious, and we drop down there, and then we see a cliff feature, and we need to escape from the cliff feature. And for that, if we're on the flat ground and we want to escape from a cliff feature, it's better to have some means to propel yourself away from the cliff feature.